In 2022, the Toronto Blue Jays put up a record of 92-70, getting them to the playoffs. Felt like for the first time in a little bit. I think it was the first time since about 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. Um, so heading into 2023, the Blue Jays, there are some expectations now. You've gotten over that hump. You've gotten into the playoffs. Can they get even further in 2023? They'll have to answer that question. So let's get straight into it. This is your Toronto Blue Jays team profile right here on Bleacher Brawls. My name is Derek. I'm here with Luke, and let's get straight into it. So as I said, 92-70 was the record for the Toronto Blue Jays. They got into the playoffs. However, they ran into the Seattle Mariners in the wild card round. Although the series was in Toronto, they ended up losing the series, and that was it. Mariners moved on, and the Blue Jays are out of the postseason. Moving into 2023, though, they're going to obviously want them to do better than just getting to the postseason. You would think so. They got a lot of talent on their team. So you look at this roster. I'll give this to Luke first. Who are three key players for this Blue Jays team? And out of those three guys, who's going to have the biggest impact on this Blue Jays team in 2023?
My team motto for the Blue Jays this year is shut up. Just play. Quit yapping, quit trash talking, quit showboating, and play like a bunch of professionals that want to prove yourselves, prove that you're as good as you're supposed to be on paper. My key players I got are Kevin Gausman is the main one. He started off great last year, but trailed off in that second half. If he can maintain last year's pace from the first half for an entire season this year, then he and Manoah could be the best 1-2 punch in the American League. Them and Glasnow and McClanahan, I think, will be duking it out for the best 1-2 combination of starting pitchers in the American League this year. I also got Matt Chapman. He flies under the radar in this team of horses that they got in Toronto offensively, but he had his best year last year since 2019. And he would be a great middle of the order bat on just about any other team in Major League Baseball. He's also got 2 platinum gloves at third base. He's probably the best third baseman in the league defensively after Nolan Arenado. And my other one is George Springer. Just such a great clutch player. I don't love Springer because I don't like him as a player, but I just love what he brings to the team. I'm still waiting on him regaining his peak form from 2019 with his 974 OPS that he had in 2019. He could be the second best position player on the team after Vlad Guerrero.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned him, so I'll mention him now for me. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., second MVP voting in 2021. If they had a non-Shohei Ohtani MVP award, he would have won it, which feels almost unfair to anyone because if you're going up against Shohei, you have to do something outrageous just to even be in the conversation with him.
Well, Judge won the MVP, not Ohtani.
Yeah, no, in 22. But
I
Judge
see,
hit
I see.
62 home runs, which is
I see what you're saying.
crazy, Whereas Vladdy had a very, very good 2021. But what Ohtani did so special, just a really good season isn't going to be, you have to have a historic season. Bo Bichette, another big piece up in the middle, too, for this Blue Jays team. Did sign that 3-year extension, which just covers his ARB years. It's not like they're not taking any of his free agent years in that deal. It just covers the ARB deal, or the ARB year, so they don't have to go to arbitration. However, I think the biggest piece for the Blue Jays team, maybe not the biggest piece in terms of best player, but I think most important is Jose Barrios because they gave up a lot to get him. Now, some of the value they gave up has dipped a little bit. Barrios value, not Barrios value, the value that they gave up, the guys that gave up their value, their stock since they gone to Minnesota has dropped a little bit. But it's still, they gave up a lot to get him. And you look at Jose Barrios, you look at him in 2022, and he had a very rough year. He had an ERA over 5. And for a guy who they signed to a 7-year extension, you don't want to see that, especially in the first year of the deal. However, he was good in 21 with a 3.52 ERA, 3.47 FIP, and it just wasn't there in 22. And I think if you look at this Blue Jays team, having Barrios as that third starter in the rotation could be huge because you get to the playoffs too, especially if you can go Manoah, Gausman, and then Barrios 3, it really helps. And then even Bassett 4 or Bassett 3, Barrios 4. However you do that, you got a very solid top 4 of your rotation then just from that. And I think that's why Barrios is so key to this team because if he is pitching like we know he can pitch, at the level we know he can be at his best, it just makes this Blue Jays team, that much better than if you get 2022 Jose Barrios.
Yeah, and I think they really were smart. I know you just mentioned Bassett, so I guess we can just get right to the offseason moves. That I love that the Blue Jays did. They addressed their offense is obviously great. So they focused all of their concentration in the offseason on run prevention. And they got the best starting pitcher available that wasn't a huge injury risk.
And that wasn't he got Bassett was like the second tier. They had the Rodons, DeGrom, like those guys, Verlander, but those were kind of out of reach because the injury concerns too.
And all of them were injury risks or just really old.
Yeah.
And so Bassett is a really good pitcher. Yeah, second tier, but he's the fourth or maybe fifth starting pitcher on this team if Ryu bounces back and has a good year. And he's got, supposedly the word during free agency was that he's got ace potential. Who knows if that's actually true? But they also just focused on defense, getting Dalton Varsho as an outfielder and getting Kevin Kiermaier as an outfield, maybe two of the 4 or 5 best defensive outfielders in the league to shore up their defense because their offense is so good. They have so many good starting pitchers and now they've got a lockdown defense pretty much, at least as far as the outfield goes. You got Bichette and Guerrero on the infield, but you got Chapman at third base to make up for that. And Chad Green, I think, is a really good move, a really reliable late-inning relief pitcher to shore up the bullpen, which wasn't seen as a big strength for the Blue Jays. So they addressed that as well. They identified, it was clearly obvious what they needed to build on if they were going to get past the wild card round this year, and they got it. And on paper, I think they're the best looking team in the American League other than the Astros.
I think the Blue Jays, I think this offseason, they traded Teoscar Hernandez, they brought in Dalton Varsho, but steep price, Gabriel Moreno, top catching prospect in baseball, arguably, definitely up there, one of the top 10 prospects in baseball. Maybe he wasn't considered a prospect anymore, but when he was considered a prospect before he exceeded prospect status, was top 10 prospect in baseball. And also traded Lourdes Gurriel Jr. away in that trade, right? Totally revamped outfield. I think this is key. I think I said this when they traded for our show. Where does George Springer play, right? And I don't know if I brought this up in videos or podcasts. I think George Springer they should put him in left field next year. I know Fangraphs has Varsho in left and Kiermaier in center and Springer in right, but let's take some wear off George Springer. He's had some injury problems and his offense was down a little bit in 22. It's down a little bit, not terribly down, but down a little bit. Why not put him in left field? Less stress on him. You have Kiermaier in center, elite defensively in center. Varsho in right, what was elite in right field, probably best defensive right fielder in baseball last year. So why not put Springer in left field, a little less load defensively. You got a guy in Kiermaier next to you who's going to cover so much ground anyways. I think that would also help too with George Springer, help him stay healthy, not have to carry as much as the load, both offensively and defensively as well, because he was carrying a lot of load. And his defense did dip a little bit in center field last year. He was negative in defensive run saved last year, and I think outs above average. He was either negative or close to being negative last year. So there definitely was a little bit of a dip based on the defensive metrics. But also, I just think health-wise, it could be a big thing to put him in left field too, instead of playing him every day in center or even right.
See, I do think he's going to play center field, but I think he's going to take they're going to DH him a lot, and they're going to be able to cycle those other outfielders in through there. They like Alejandro Kirk and Danny Jansen in the lineup at the same time. I know, but as the catchers with one of them DHing, but when you got Dalton Varsho and Kevin Kiermaier, you want him in the field. You want him in the outfield every day. So I think there's going to be a lot of rotating like that. Danny Jansen's going to find himself on the outside looking in a lot of the time. And that's the option that makes sense there. So I think Springer's going to be the primary center fielder, but I think he's going to be DHing a lot, and they'll save some wear and tear on his body that way. And they'll just have an extraordinary defense in left field and right field with Kiermaier and Varsho. Because Kiermaier is, I don't know if he's getting up there in age, but he's had a lot of injuries too.
Yeah, he's had some. Real quick though, let's move on to the expectations. We're running a little bit longer than we wanted to on this part of the episode here on this team profiles. But real quick, expectations, couple sentences. Blue Jays expectations for 2023. Go.
I got them winning the American League East. I got them winning the American League Championship Series, and I got them in the World Series against the LA Dodgers.
Okay, the expectations for this team, I think they gotta push for a division, but most importantly, get in the playoffs and push for a deep run in the playoffs. My only worries with this team are injuries and being inconsistent, being streaky. That's my only worries with this Blue Jays team. Blue Jays fans, let us know your thoughts in the comments. How you feeling heading into 2023? Make sure to check out all our links in the description. The Bleacher Brawls website, podcast, Instagram, and Twitter. Plus, all the crew's Twitters will also be down there. The first link in the description will be a playlist with all the team profiles. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know if I whenever we post. That's your Toronto Blue Jays team profile right here on Bleacher Brawls. My name is Derek. I'm here with Luke. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.